What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the Samsung Galaxy A05s. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the Galaxy A05s. This device was recently launched in October of 2023, and as the name of the phone does suggest, it is the successor to last year's Galaxy A04s. Now this time around, we've gotten quite a few awesome upgrades to this phone, and I have actually compared the A05s to the A04s in a separate video. So if you are especially curious how this phone compares to its predecessor, I do recommend also watching that video. But before I get too far into things here with the A05s, let's see what all comes included in the box. So here is the box, and as you can see, there's a photo of the phone right there. Now this device is offered in a variety of different colors as well. So definitely take a look at the link in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing and availability when it comes to the various colors. But opening up the box, there really isn't too much here. However, we do have a SIM card removal tool, and then I'll open up this packet, and we have a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer, and then we also have some literature. Now there is no USB wall adapter included, so that is a bit unfortunate, but at least we do have this cable here. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A05s, we have a very large 6.7-inch display. Now this display features PLS IPS LCD technology, and it does have a 90 Hz refresh rate. So with that faster refresh rate, things definitely move a little bit more smoother here compared to a 60 Hz refresh rate display. And overall, just looking at the display of this phone, whether it's the actual brightness of it, the quality, and then also that 90 Hz, this phone does feel a lot more premium than it actually is. So I really do applaud Samsung for really making the most of things with the A05s. Now to make things even better, this display is 1080p, so everything's super crisp and clear. We're also getting a PPI of 393, a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, and we're getting an 82.9% screen-to-body ratio. Now in some ways, this phone does look a little bit outdated. So for example, we do have that water drop notch up top, and I certainly wish we had a hole punch instead. I was really hoping that the water drop notch would get lost in the 2010s, but it seems like it still is around. So with this phone and many others that have been launched in the last few years, so it looks like the notch isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But it's not like it really gets in the way or anything. I just would have preferred a hole punch instead because it looks a little bit more modern. We also have a slightly thicker bottom bezel as well, but overall I'm actually a big fan of the design of this phone, and having that really large 6.7-inch display really gives us a large canvas to work with, whether it's for watching video content, editing photos, going on social media, really doing anything. I think having a big display really comes in handy for a lot of different reasons. Now in that notch up top, we do have a 13 megapixel front-facing camera. And stay tuned for later on in the video, as I'll be showing you a variety of different photo and video samples from all the various cameras here on the device. Now internally, we're getting 128 gigabytes of storage along with microSD card expansion. Now 128 gigs is a lot for really any phone, and especially a lower end device like this. So I really appreciate that we're getting that much storage space, and that's definitely very generous on Samsung's part. Now, I don't know what phone you currently have as far as the storage goes. Maybe you have a phone with 64 gigabytes or 32 gigs, and if that's the case, 128 gigs will be a really nice upgrade for you. But if for some reason you do happen to fill up the majority of that space, or maybe you just want to free up some of the space, it is cool too that you can always add in a microSD card to offload photos and videos, for example. So you can put that content on the SD card and then have extra internal space for other things. Now, unfortunately, with the Galaxy A05s, there is no wireless charging, so that is a bit disappointing. However, with this device, we do have a fingerprint sensor located on the power button. So we'll give that a try right now. And that's really fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time. There we go. So it is good to see that even though this is a lower end phone, the fingerprint sensor still works really well. And in addition to that, this phone also supports Face Unlock, so it is really nice that we have multiple methods for accessing the phone. Now, on the back of the device, we have a triple camera setup, so we're getting a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode, and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And this device does support portrait mode for both the rear and front cameras. So if you are someone who likes to take portrait photos, then just know that you do have that ability here with the A05s. Now, if you're looking for a quick and easy way to get to the camera app, all you have to do is just double press on the power button and the phone will take you right over to there. And there's me right there through the selfie camera. Now we can flip around here and I'll show you some of the various camera modes. This is with the standard camera right now, and it is 50 megapixels by the way, but keep in mind that by default it doesn't actually capture images at the full 50 megapixels. If you want that, you actually have to go up here to where it says 3x4, and then choose 3x4 50 megapixels, and then you can actually take 50 megapixel images. So with that higher megapixel count, you are getting a lot more detail, but in exchange for that, those photos will take up a lot more space on your device. But you can see zooming in, the quality is really good. So even though this is a lower end device, you're still getting excellent cameras on here, especially compared to other phones in this segment. But I wouldn't really recommend always taking 50 megapixel images just because you will fill up that storage space a lot faster. But heading over to the More tab, we can access the macro camera. And then with the macro camera, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. So that is a nice, useful feature to have. Now, unfortunately, there is no ultra-wide camera with this phone. I do wish we would have had that feature, but it is not present here. But we can go over to portrait mode then to get those nice blurry backgrounds. And then there is a slider here to adjust the level of blur. But then flipping around to the front-facing camera, we can also take portrait selfies. You can also adjust the blur here as well. There's also an option to crop out a little bit for a group selfie. And then if you want to take standard selfies without portrait mode, we also have that ability here too. Now when it comes to video recording, this phone does support 1080p video at up to 60 FPS for both the front and rear cameras. So that is really cool, but unfortunately there is no support for 4K video with this device. But let's now take a look at some camera samples from the Samsung Galaxy A05s. Now overall, I've been very impressed with the camera quality from pretty much all the various cameras here on the device. When it comes to selfies, the portrait mode option works really well, and even if you want to take standard selfies too, that also creates some really great looking images. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the phone does support group selfies as well, so that's cool to have too. But when it comes to the 50 megapixel main camera, the quality is excellent with that as well. And if you're especially in well-lit situations, you're going to have no issues with that quality. So this phone is perfectly fine if you want to use it to capture various memories. Maybe you're going on a family gathering and you want to take great looking photos that are good for social media and you'll want to keep for a long time. This phone is perfectly fine for that type of use. Also, if you're going on vacation and you want to take photos of your trip, that's also a good use case for the cameras on here. So really, again, for what this phone is, considering that it is a lower end affordable Android device, the cameras are totally fine here. Even the macro camera works well enough. So I'm really curious to know what you think though. You can see these camera samples in front of you right now, so I'll let you be the judge on the quality. But again, in my opinion, I'm really impressed with the quality from the various cameras here on the phone. But let's now take a look at some video samples from the Galaxy A05s. What's going on everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a 1080p front-facing test video from the Samsung Galaxy A05s. And here is a 1080p test video using the main rear camera on the A05s. And we do have autofocus in video mode. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A05s, we're getting 6GB of RAM paired up with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 680 4G processor. Now, as the name of that processor does suggest, this phone is limited to just 4G LTE. Now, in 2023, I don't think you necessarily need 5G support. You can certainly survive without it. But at the same time, I do feel like if you're going to go through all the time and effort of getting a brand new smartphone, you may as well get one that does support your carrier's latest and greatest network. Now, if that's not too important to you, then I suppose it's not a problem at all, but just know that if you're expecting this phone to have 5G support, it simply does not have it. Now, there's plenty of other phones in Samsung's A series that are compatible with 5G, so keep that in mind. It's just that this one is not. Now also when it comes to RAM, I believe there's other variants of the Galaxy A05s that have less RAM than this one has, so keep that in mind as well. But from my experience of using the phone, I feel like it's very fast, especially for a lower end device. Really no issues there. It's very smooth getting around the interface, going on different apps, browsing the web as well. All those things work really well on this phone. Now, of course, compared to more expensive $1,000 Android smartphones, you're not getting nearly the level of performance that you get with those devices. But for what this is, I'm really happy with the performance that we're getting. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and here are the scores that I got from that test. So I got a single core score of 413 and a multi-core score of 1408. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the Galaxy A05s compares to what you currently have. Because you certainly would not want to get this device if it is a performance downgrade. Now with the Galaxy A05s, we're getting a very large 5,000 mAh internal battery, and what's really awesome is that this phone does support fast charging at up to 25 watts. So not only are we getting a really big battery here with the device, giving us excellent battery life, but you're also able to replenish that battery very quickly as well. Because there's nothing more frustrating than having a phone that charges very slowly, and you're just staring at the battery percentage all day, waiting for it to slowly go up. So the fact that it has very fast charging here with the device is certainly a really good thing. Now, one bad thing though about the phone is that there is no NFC, so if you do want to use the phone for tap and pay, to make mobile contactless payments using services such as Samsung Pay or Google Pay, unfortunately you cannot do that here. So if you do want to do tap and pay payments, you are going to have to use a smartwatch that does support NFC and then pair that up with the phone, and I guess that's kind of a workaround, but you can't actually use the phone itself for tap and pay. Now this phone is running Android 13 out of the box, and if you've used any Samsung phone anytime recently, then the experience here will be very familiar to you. So overall, I'm really happy with the software. It is very smooth as well, very well optimized for the phone, so I am very happy with that. This phone is designed to be repaired by the user, so I'm not exactly sure what things people would be breaking. So the Galaxy A05s is excellent for watching video content. As you can see here, colors are really good, brightness is excellent as well, and we're getting a really large display to watch the content on. You can even crop in if you want to and really get an immersive look here. Now, unfortunately, this phone does not have stereo sound, so we're only getting audio out of the main speaker in the bottom here, versus phones that do support stereo audio, where you also get audio out of the earpiece. Now the earpiece still works for phone calls, but when you're watching video content or listening to music, you only get audio out of the one speaker on the side. Now thankfully, that speaker is decently good, certainly nothing wrong with it. So if you do want to use this phone to sit back, relax, and watch some video content, that won't be an issue at all. It's just that if the phone did have stereo audio, things would have been a bit better. But again, overall, I have no complaints, especially for a lower end Android device. And then taking a look at the hardware of the phone, on the left side we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. On the right side we have volume up, volume down, and also the power button, which doubles as the fingerprint sensor. Then up top here we have the noise canceling microphone. Then on the bottom of the phone we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. Then on the back of the device we have the triple camera setup with the flash and the Samsung logo, and that's pretty much it. Now this phone is made completely of plastic, besides the display which is made of glass. Now despite the phone having a plastic build, it actually feels pretty premium and certainly doesn't feel cheap. I think Samsung made the most of the materials that we're getting here, and it really couldn't be any better for a phone made out of plastic. I also really like this material on the back because it doesn't really pick up any fingerprints, and also has kind of this cool wavy look to it, so I like this frosted finish a lot. But since the phone is made of plastic, you might want to consider pairing it up with a case, just to keep it a bit more protected against scratches, because plastic is certainly more prone to be scratched up. But in general, I'm a big fan of the Samsung Galaxy A05s. I think Samsung did an excellent job designing this phone, and really making it feel a lot more premium than it actually is. So for a very affordable Android handset, I certainly think this is a good option. Just keep in mind some of those various shortcomings, such as not having NFC, and also not supporting 5G connectivity. But this concludes my review of the Samsung Galaxy A05s. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments what you think about this phone. But with all that said, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.